I'll say so.
I call this meeting of the Davenport School Board to order. Director Hayes, would you please read the board priorities?
Yes, I'll be happy to. The Davenport School Board establishes the following priorities to ensure the academic success of all students, to provide leadership and direction to improve the overall learning environment in our classrooms, schools, and district, including the health, safety, security, and happiness of students and staff. Also, to direct and support actions, programs, and activities which reduce the impact of poverty on our students, their families, and our community.
Thank you. Director Mayfield, would you please read the mission and vision statement?
Yes. Mission statement. Enhance each student's ability by providing a quality education enriched by our diverse community. Vision statement. Education that challenges conventional thinking prepares all students to compete in a global society and inspires our students, parents, staff, and community to answer the question, what if?
Thank you, Director. Director Gosa, would you read the Oh, you're right. Student board reports.
I'll go first. Well, it's been a long time since we got to last see you guys, so I got a decent amount of information for you guys, so hopefully I don't overwhelm you on our first day back in the year. So first thing on order is we had 17 West students that auditioned for, I'm not going to try to pronounce this, I'll just say the acronym, CEIBA Honor Band, with 11 students be accepted, 1 first alternate, and 1 recall. On Saturday, January 29th, we had 25 West and Central students. It's just not a one West thing. We're one community over here in Davenport. Along with 30 adult powerlifters competed at the 4th annual Falcon Friends Bench Press and Deadlift competition, with the proceeds going to the Bill Reagan Scholarship Fund. Alongside our band students, we had 5 students that were also selected to the SEISTA Honor Orchestra concert at Bettendorf High School. We've also been collecting coats at West High School for those who can't afford those over the last couple months. And today we, alongside the rest of the nation, helped honor the memory of Kobe Bryant, who unfortunately died in a tragic helicopter crash last night. I believe our basketball team is planning on doing something to honor him tomorrow night at our game.
Same with Central. We had many students who were selected to the SEBA program through band. And also our bowling team is still undefeated as of last year.
On Friday, Coach Werdinger coached his 400th win at the basketball game. We had Sydney Park qualify, or she's a state champion for wrestling. And then we performed Almost Maine this past weekend for our play in the new PAC.
Thank you very much. Are there any board reports? Director Hayes?
I wanted to publicly commend Tom and Diane for setting up the board workshop we had a few weeks ago. Actually, it was just last week we had it, very informative, and I do feel personally that that particular workshop in an off-site setting that really created a connection between us, and I do feel with that workshop that we're looking forward to a great year together.
Director Beck?
This is not on. Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. This is old news now, but I wasn't able to do it at the last meeting. Back in December, I went to the Central Area Progressive Orchestra show. My son that was his first time there. It's 5th grade through 12th grade. All the feeder schools that go to Central plus Central. And it was really impressive to hear the students in the 5th grade who are very squeaky with their string instruments, and on up to how really strong they sound by the time they get to high school. It was very impressive. And also Director Hayes' grandson was in that performance as well and did a great job. So great music happening in our district.
Director Gosa.
I thought you guys would have talked about it, but I'll acknowledge the two Park sisters for winning back-to-back women's state champions at wrestling this past weekend. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge them because that's a very awesome thing that they both did. One goes to Central and the other one goes to North. One's a senior at North, and I can't remember what grade the other one's in at Central. Sophomore?
Any other board reports? Director Washington.
A couple weeks ago, I attended Orange Frog Happiness Advantage workshop, which was attended by all the staff of Davenport Central and Sudlow Intermediate. And I think it's something that the district should look at as far as implementing it with some of the other staff in the district.
Any other board reports? Director Gosa, would you go over the calendar?
The upcoming events, January 28th, tomorrow, the SBRC School Budget Review Committee meeting in Des Moines. February 5th, Wednesday, 3:30 p.m. Policy Committee meeting, Executive Boardroom, ASC. February 10th, Monday, 5 p.m. Board Workshop, Creative Arts Academy on the second floor. February 11th, Tuesday, 5 p.m. Local School Improvement Advisory Committee right here in the ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. February 17th, Monday, is the Get on the Bus trip to Des Moines. February 24th, Monday, regular board meeting, 6 p.m. ASC Jim Hester Boardroom.
Thank you. It's open forum. Open forum is a time for members of the community to give input at the board meeting regarding school district issues or concerns. Individuals who want to speak should fill out an open forum request and give it to the board secretary prior to the open forum. The board will not act on any issue presented during open forum if it was not published as an agenda item. The Iowa Open Meetings Law prohibits action on any issue that is not on the agenda. The president will set the amount of time allowed for individuals to speak during open forum. The board asks that no charges or complaints be made against individual employees of the district or community during open forum. Remarks that reflect negatively on the character or motives of any person will be called out of order. We have two requests for open forum this evening. The first one is Toby Payon, and then after him, Jack Akes would speak. We'll give you each about 2 minutes.
Hello, President Potts. How are you?
Well, hello, Mr. Payon. How
How
you
are
been?
you? Good, good. Toby Payon, 2417 Iowa Street here in Davenport. And I come to you tonight as the Vice Chair for the Scott County Democratic Party. As you know, the caucuses, the Iowa caucuses are going to be held a week from tonight on Monday, February 3rd. And I wanted to just say thank you to the Davenport Community School District. The vast majority of caucuses in Scott County are actually going to be held in the Davenport schools. Probably, I think 44 of the 63 precincts are going to be held in the Davenport schools. There are 4 public school districts in Scott County. 2 of them have been very cooperative, including Davenport. 2 of them have been very uncooperative, and I'm not going to mention the uncooperative ones. I especially want to give a shout out to one of your employees, Victoria Edwards, who has been terrific. She is a person who works, if you walk in the main door and there's the cubicle, she does all the scheduling, and I've met with her probably a dozen times to work out all the details. And trust me, we're going to have over 18,000 people, not only from Scott County, but from colleges and universities throughout the state of Illinois, and literally hundreds of news media from around the world who are going to be coming into the Davenport schools that night. So it's really a orchestration of chaos to a large degree. We're expecting the largest turnout ever in Scott County history on Monday the 3rd. So I just, the coordination, the cooperation from principals, from custodians, who have really are doing the lion's share of the work inside the buildings has been nothing but first rate. And I just wanted to say publicly what I've been saying privately to many people is that we've gotten just nothing but outstanding, how can I help you types of cooperation from the people here in the Davenport School District on this really historic and monumental project that is going to happen 1 week from tonight. So thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jack Ox. I live at 4018 229th Street, Circle North, Port Byron, Illinois. I teach economics, psychology, and American government at West High School. This is my 17th year at West, and I'm a 20-year Army veteran. This is my second career. First, I want to thank you, school board members and new ones newly elected, for your service and dedication to our community. Your job's not easy. Your tireless efforts may seem unappreciated, and I, for one, want to thank you guys for doing that. I'm here for two reasons. One, to model to my students, I have many of my students out here, how to participate in our representative government, and to showcase how economic decisions are made in the real world. One of the ways we can participate is to attend meetings like this at the local, state, and national level. We have a responsibility to tell our representatives what we think. Additionally, the school board makes economic decisions all the time. Just looking at the agenda tonight, there are many economic decisions to be made. Second, I'm here to tell you several concerns that I have that will impact the educational process. One, the current contract with teachers expires, and teachers would like a new contract with the district. If you want to retain quality teachers, a contract is a must-have. Second, due to recent teacher cuts, class size has risen and having a negative impact on education. Personally, I've seen a 20% increase in my class sizes this school year. I went from having 22 to 25 students, and now I got 32, 35. Because of the increase, I'm kind of like stressed out, and the workload is a lot. I'm frustrated. It's hard to help all the students, and I really care. I really want to get to everyone. I just can't get, I'm just outnumbered. The students are frustrated. So class size makes a big difference. I mean, you could have the best teacher in the world, but if I'm overnumbered, it's just tough. I understand about budget cuts. I've been there. But there needs to be a limit. And so you may not see the problem at your level like I see it at my level, and the staffing is done by building. So when you look at the overall student-to-teacher ratio, it doesn't look bad. But then when you drill down into the class, you know, I got 32, I got 35 kids, and I'm pulling more chairs in my classroom. So the part of the problem is how the computer schedules students for different classes. So a way that I can see a fix, I would like the school board to consider having a policy that limits the class size to 30. Put that in the computer system, and maybe like right now, I got seniors and juniors. Have the juniors, maybe if it's too full, put them back next year. They can take that class next year as a senior. So, and it's just it's not separated evenly. So, thank you.
We'll move to the consent agenda. May I have a motion?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I move the board accept the consent agenda as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Gosa. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Being no discussion, we'll move to a vote. Director Hayes,
Yes.
Director Gosa,
Yes.
Director Postian,
Yes.
Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome,
Yes.
Director Mayfield,
Yes.
and my vote is yes. The consent agenda is adopted. Approval of bills. May I have a motion?
Mr. President,
Director Beck,
I move that the board approve the resolution recommended by the administration for adoption of the bills from the bill listing periods 12/5/19 to 12/18/19, 12/19/19 to 1/8/2020, and 1/9/2020 to 1/22/2020. Resolved, all claims presented to the board having been duly certified as correct by the secretary, reviewed by the administration and board members, and they are hereby audited and allowed as just claims and warrants drawn on the treasury for the several amounts. Further resolved, the payment of claims and salaries be approved as presented for the periods 12/5/19 to 12/18/19, 12/19/19 to 1/8/2020, special release by the president, and the current bill listing for 1/9/2020 to 1/22/2020.
Is there a second?
Second. Second.
Director Hayes, thank you. Is there any discussion? We'll move to the vote. Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Hayes,
Yes.
Director Gosa,
Yes.
Director Postian,
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome,
Yes.
Director Mayfield,
Yes.
and my vote is yes. The bills are paid. Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to see all of you. I have three items that I would like to discuss this evening. First of all, just was informed a few moments ago that the Iowa State Performance Profile, which is data with regard to our achievement in working here in the school district, has been posted online and it's currently available to the public. The current metrics that are included in the school performance profile include our ISASS scores, ELA, math, from a growth, participation, and proficiency perspective, science scores, ELL proficiency, data from the Civil Rights Office, district financial reports, and alternative assessment data. I will say that our plan is to sit down with the board in a workshop format and dig into this information from a student achievement perspective in great detail, and not just in the aggregate. So we're looking forward to having that conversation very soon. We will post on our website a link so that not only our Board of Education, but the entire public has the opportunity to peruse the data that's associated with the performance profile. So that is something that's coming. I do want to say, though, that out of our 27 schools, noting that Walcott is measured both as an elementary and intermediate school, 21 of our 27 schools improved their overall ESSA scores with notable double-digit increases in 3 of our schools, which would be Davenport North, Hayes, and Monroe. So congratulations to those 3 schools and those accomplishments. But again, we'll spend more time looking at that data. But if anyone's out there and wants to take a look at that this evening, I'm told that that has gone live on the state site. So you're more than welcome to take a peek at that. That's item number 1. Item number 2, tomorrow we have another meeting with the Department of Education with regard to our crisis response violence prevention plan. As you know, this has been a conversation not only in our school district, but in our community for not only months, but actually years. It is our hope in the district to move forward with a plan that we believe will provide a safe environment, not only for our students, but for our employees, but also for our families and our overall community. You'll see an agenda item a little bit later on that talks about an organization that's going to help us gather data so that we can continue having community conversations with regard to crisis response and violence prevention, and continue on with the forum concept that I announced a couple months ago that the district would participate in. So we're very excited to continue this work, and my gratitude and thanks goes out to the Department of Education for helping us not only facilitate the conversation, but being a part of the structure and working with us on that one. And last, but certainly not least, tomorrow's a very important day for this school system. As everyone in this room and across Davenport knows, we've been experiencing financial headwinds for quite some time. And tomorrow we have a request in front of the SBRC, which essentially is a request to provide some semblance of relief to the district from a financial perspective. It shouldn't escape anyone's attention from class size to every aspect of our operation is impacted by financial matters in the district. We've put together a plan that we hope that the SBRC will take into serious consideration. It's a plan that's based upon actual
financial data from this current school year that shows the magnitude and the effect of the expenditure reductions in this current fiscal cycle. As everyone here knows, again, a number of difficult decisions were made last year that allowed us to reduce our expenditures this year. Our hope from the SBRC tomorrow is that we have some semblance of relief such that expenditure reductions of the magnitude that we experienced last year are a thing of the past, and we don't have to move in that direction again. So tomorrow we're on at 10:35 in Des Moines. I'm pleased that the majority of our board will be there representing the Davenport Public School System, but I will say tomorrow is a tipping point for the district one way or the other, and we're very anxious to have our conversation with the SBRC, and knowing the thoughtful individuals that they are, I'm sure they'll take our request in very meaningful consideration. And like I said, it's a very important day, and you'll probably hear about it on the news tomorrow night. So, Mr. President, that concludes my superintendent report for the evening.
Thank you. Move to items requiring action. May I have a motion on 8.01, please?
Mr. President,
Director Hayes?
I move that the board approve the plans and specifications for the Achievement Service Center Masonry project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. That was Director Beck. Oh, Klein-Drew. Okay, thank you. We will now hold a public hearing on the approval of plans and specifications for the Achievement Service Center Masonry Project as published in the Quad City Times on January 17th, 2019. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing and hearing none, I will now declare the public hearing closed. Is there any further discussion on the motion? There seeing none, we'll move to the vote. Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Klein-Jerome?
Yes.
Director Poston?
Yes.
Director Mayfield?
Yes, I want you, can I get some clarification? Excuse me. Are we talking about this building right here? No.
Yes,
Yes.
Director
Yes.
Beck?
yes, we are talking about this building.
Yes.
Director Gosa?
Yes.
And my vote is yes, the motion carries. We have a motion on item 8.02.
Mr. President,
Director Beck? There a second?
I didn't say it yet. I move that the board approve the comprehensive annual financial report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019 as presented.
That's what I asked.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Would the representatives from Bonsack and Fromlet please come up and share or answer questions about the audit?
Good evening. Is this now on? Okay. Good evening. I have in front of you a summary presentation of the year-end audit, and certainly I'm happy to answer any questions as we go along. As part of the year-end audit, we issue 3 documents. We issue the comprehensive annual financial report, and then there are 2 separate letters. The comprehensive annual financial report is what you would consider the audit. It has all of the audit opinions and information in that, which I will go through. The other 2 letters are summaries of the audit. They are also what used to be called a management advice letter, so they are items that we just want to bring to your attention. They are not findings, just suggestions. Okay. So I'm going to start on the graph and on the second slide, which is a summary of the audit results. We tend to call it the report card. We actually do 3 audits each year. The first audit's the financial statement audit, which is the audit over your financial information. We also do an audit called the Government Auditing Standards Audit, where we look at internal controls, and we also test compliance with laws and regulations, such as debt agreements or state code. The state auditor largely dictates most of that testing. And then we do a federal single audit, which is an audit of your significant federal programs. And I just wanted to point out, as slide 2 shows you, that all of those audits received an unmodified opinion. That's the highest level of opinion you can receive. They're clean, what we call clean reports. So I just want to congratulate you on that. In the Government Auditing Standards Audit, we do report a significant deficiency over year-end, long-term liability type transactions. And if you'd like to refer to that, that's on page 119 is where you would see, in this document, where you would see those items. And I want to point out that in the past, the district has had what's termed material weaknesses reported, which are one of the higher, it is the highest level of finding. But because of the efforts of the business department and additional controls and processes in place, that was reduced to a significant deficiency this year. So you're moving in the right direction. And in terms of the federal audit, we audited the Title I program, the Supporting Effective Instruction State Grant Program, and the Student and Academic Enrichment Program. There were no findings to report. So again, clean opinions on those federal programs. And then slide 3 starts just a summary of your financial information. It's rather high level. And slide 3 compares your revenues for 2019 to 2018. Total revenues in 2019 were $221 million compared to $217 million. It's a change of 1.5% from the prior year in total. And the largest changes were in the other local section, which is the third set of columns from your left. They had an increase of about 1 million or 14%. A big change there is because of interest income. The district changed banking in the midst of fiscal year 18. As a result of that change in 19, the district realized $800,000 more in interest income from changing the banks and accounts and now realizing a higher interest rate. The other big change is in sales, service, and use tax, which is right next to that other local column. That has increased about 1.2 million from last year. And the sales, service, and use tax is really collected and distributed at the state level. So fluctuations will be based on the economy within the state and also how the state decides to distribute. They do it all based on projections. So sometimes they under-distribute and sometimes they over-distribute. So that's why you will see a fluctuation there. And then just to mention intergovernmental revenue, that does include your state aid as well as categorical aid. And state aid increased approximately 700,000 or 1% from the prior year. And once again, that's a formula in terms of enrollment and how the state decides to add aid each year in their budget. And the last slide shows a summary of the expenditures. And the expenditures really changed less than 1% between fiscal years in total. While you might see some swings between categories, 2019 had about 217 million of total expenditures, and 2018 had 216 million in expenditures. The largest categories should always be your instruction and support services. That's where your core operating services reside, and most of that would be payroll and wage increases as well as benefits. And there was an expectation that pay increases would be between 2 to 3%, just simply based on the contracts that you have in place. What that actually changed as expected, but not as high, because while there were pay increases of 2 to 3%, you did have a reduction in personnel that offset that. So you have very little change in your total wages and benefits. And in addition to those wages and benefits, instruction and support services also includes open enrollment tuition out. And that decreased approximately 40,000, just simply you had less students open enrolled out than you had in the past. And last, capital projects, which is second to the last, that is your projects, your capital improvement plan. It will fluctuate based on what projects you've approved for the fiscal year. And last year was substantially more due to building remodeling, but also the track and field improvements were a large part of last year. And this year, while there continue to be significant projects, most of that was around the building remodeling as well. Are there any questions? It's pretty summary, but I thought mostly it's nice to hear that you have clean opinions overall. So, yes.
I think this is the right place to ask these questions. So in reading the two letters, you had included them in the end of the document here. Two questions. The first one was about the sort of the, what's the word, non-compliance, or, you know, what did you call them, deficiencies?
Yes.
I think.
Right.
So you said we were making improvements,
Right.
but why, if we get notice of something like this, do we not just fix it completely, right?
Yes, and a lot of that has to do with the timing. So the audit is taking place in the fall of the next school year. So by the time you have an opportunity to address them, you've got a good quarter of the year has already progressed. So it's not unusual to take a couple years, particularly when you're realigning employee duties. That it needs some time to make those transitions.
Okay, so, because I feel like last year we had some of the same things, so that's just, it takes a little bit of time to shake out, and
Right.
next year, theoretically, we should have fewer of these.
Right. And last year, page 114 shows you a list of all of last year's findings, and you'll see there that quite a few were corrected or partially corrected. So they were certainly in process.
Okay. For now, that's it.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Dr. Beck, you got another question?
Yes. Sorry, I gotta find it. Yes, okay, so my other question, and I'm sorry, I didn't have paper to write down my notes when I went through this earlier. One of the suggestions was to use a particular type of software, to not use Excel.
For capital assets.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I did see that last year.
Yes.
Is that because you can't just easily switch from one thing?
It's
To the
it's
other?
having to go through and obtain a capital asset module that will integrate with your financial software. So there's the purchase of the software and then the training
Okay.
of the software to get that all ready to go.
Okay, and then the little note where there were employees who didn't have letters of assignment.
Right.
Can you explain exactly what that means?
If you are hired after the period that the letter of assignments come out, in this case, the employees were hired in August, then there is no signed letter or contract in that employee's personnel file that provides them the detail of their hourly or salary rate and hours expected of them.
Okay, so in practice, those people know what's expected of them, generally speaking, but it leaves us open potentially for liability if there's not an official letter there.
Document outlining that, what their position is, and what their pay is.
Yeah. And were those corrected, do we know right away, or?
What happens then is, in returning employees, they will have a letter of assignment in the next fiscal year.
Okay. Thank you. Those were my questions.
You have any further questions? Yes.
Now, we just purchased that Forecast 5. Is this something that can be used versus the Excel, or are we needing to purchase another program?
It would be a separate program.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? We'll move to the vote. Director Beck?
Yes.
Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Postian?
Yes.
Director Mayfield?
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Gosa?
Yes.
And my vote is yes, the motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you.
May I have a motion on 8.03?
Mr. President,
Director Hayes?
I recommend the board approve to extend the contract with Bonsack and Fromelt LLP for an additional 3 years for independent auditing services.
Is there a second?
Second.
Director Klein Jerome, thank you. Discussion. Director Beck?
Didn't we just extend the contract with them? Or am I thinking of something else? I feel like we discussed the contract. Okay, I'm thinking of a different one. Never mind. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I do have one question. That total is for 3 years, right? Not every year. Okay.
Any other questions? We'll move to the vote. Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Postian?
Yes.
Director Gosa?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
Director Mayfield?
Yes.
And my vote is yes, the motion carries. We have a motion on 8.04.
Mr. President,
Director Beck?
I move that the board approve the lowest responsible and responsive bid from Hometown Plumbing and Heating in the amount of $1,919,500 for the Hayes Boiler Replacement Project.
Is there a second?
Second. Second.
Thank you, Director Hayes. Discussion. Director Gosa? Mr. Maloney? Come on down.
So my question is real simple. I still don't see the matrix or any of that in here that we had asked about, and I think you guys said you couldn't put it in policy or moving it to administrative regulations, but the board would still see that, and I don't see that in here.
It's going to take some time. You may recall from the work session we had with when Dick Davidson was there that we're going to have to be careful to get this exactly right.
So my question is, how long is it going to take? I want an answer. We've been pushing this down the road for ever since I've been on the board, to be quite honest. How long do you think it will take to get it done? Or what do I need? Do I need to put a board request in that I want this done in X amount of time? I mean, what's a reasonable time? It just seems like we keep putting this off. I mean, looking at these bids, these are all fairly close. So what determines what one's better than the other? Just because it's cheaper doesn't mean anything.
Mr. Grosso, we put in a request for language from our attorneys that would keep us compliant with this, but certainly honor the intent and request that's in front of the board. I will follow through with our attorneys to see where they are with that language, letting them know that we expect to present that to the board within, by the next board meeting.
Perfect, thank you.
Director Gosia, would you explain for the other board members who are new what you're talking about?
So basically what we did, well, we tried to do a policy like Des Moines School District has for purchasing where the contractor asked to answer certain questions post-bid after they've already bid the project, because you could throw a number out, whatever. I mean, you hear it all the time because the school district has deep pockets. So I'm just gonna throw this number out. Well, they would have to answer certain questions, you know, like what's your OSHA rating and stuff like that, because obviously we don't want someone with a bad OSHA rating on our projects around our students and stuff like that, safety records and different things like that. If they have like a federally accredited apprenticeship program, which I think Hometown does. But that's me, I know that from that. So basically it was just, we were getting, rake through the coals over the central projects, change order after change order after change order. So it was kind of a way to kind of alleviate that stuff, to get responsible contractors actually doing it and know that we're taking notice of this, and just because you throw a price in there, so they could be the low bidder right now and then they hit us with the change order and then they wound up where the other ones were. That was kind of what we were trying to do in a nutshell.
Any more questions on the motion? We'll move to the vote. Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Hayes,
Yes.
Director Gosa,
No.
Director Clausen,
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome,
Yes.
Director Mayfield,
Yes.
and my vote is yes, the motion carries. 8.06,
8.05.
excuse me, 8.05.
Mr. President,
We have a motion. Director Beck,
I move that the board approve issuing a purchase order in the amount of $126,420 to furnish the unit ventilators for the Hayes Boiler Replacement Project.
is there a second?
Second. Second.
Thank you, Director Hayes. Discussion? Director Hayes.
How many of these units? Ms. Maloney, how many of these units will we be purchasing?
35.
And with that, with them being separate, one from Train, and then how does the warranty, will the installation, how does that work if we purchase it separately?
Exactly the same way it would work were the contractor to purchase them. And we very purposefully wrote it into the specifications that way. The Train warranty from the factory on the equipment is from Train. The contractor's warranty for workmanship and installation and so forth remains exactly the same. And the contractor will take responsibility for these units at the time we deliver them to the contractor and then install them. As I explained in the letter, because of the fact that they don't even manufacture them until you order them, we needed to order them as a separate transaction in order to have them here in time to be installed.
And are we saving a significant amount on them by getting them directly from Train versus the contractor purchasing them for us?
Well, I can't know the answer to that. We got them through a competitively bid contract, but I don't know. Now, I suppose if the contractor had purchased them directly, they would mark them up. So I have to imagine we're probably better off.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Director Mayfield.
And who would be responsible for the maintenance, sir?
Once they're
guarantees.
installed, they become the responsibility of the district to maintain.
Is there a warranty of any sort that goes with those?
Yes, the standard Trane factory warranty on the equipment will be in place. And
Which is, I don't know if you know it
I
right
don't
now.
know it off the top of my head. I can get that information for you if you'd like to have it.
Just ask.
The installation and workmanship by the contractor is 1 year.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Move to the vote. Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Hayes,
Yes.
Director Mayfield,
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome,
Yes.
Director Gosa,
Yes.
Director Postian,
Yes.
and my vote is yes. Motion carries. 8.06.
That's one you're moving out.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything about it?
Mr. President, it's my recommendation that we table this particular item, and the reason for that is I would like to see a more immediate solution to the bathroom stalls and the ladies' restrooms at Smart Intermediate. I believe we can have those stalls fixed in 8 of the 10 that need to be replaced. We have 12 functioning, 8 of them are not. I'd like to see those fixed and replaced by the end of the week. So rather than plan this out for a summer project, I'd like to have immediate solution to that. In the meantime, it gives us an opportunity as a management team to take a closer look at our long-term facilities budget and our long-term planning budget. And clearly, a lot of those decisions will be based on what happens tomorrow. So I think it would be prudent to table this discussion. However, you have my assurances that we'll work with the team to have those bathrooms in working order and provide the privacy and accessibility that we're required to by standards.
Chair will entertain a motion to table.
I make a motion to table 8.06.
Is there a second?
Second.
Director Beck. Discussion. Director Beck?
I just want to make sure if we do table this, that we have somebody follow up with us and let us know that this has been solved by the end of the week, or,
That'll be my responsibility.
okay, thank you.
Director Gosa?
I will agree with that as well, because we had this come up a couple years ago with a bathroom at Central, and then it took forever to get it done. And I would like to see it get done right away. So if whoever could send us an email at the end that it's done, that would be greatly appreciated.
Anybody else? Move to the vote. Director Gosa?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Mayfield?
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Postian?
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion is tabled. We have a motion on 8.07, please.
Mr. President,
Director Hayes?
I move that the board approve the request for the School Budget Review Committee, SBRC, for modified supplemental amount and supplemental aid for the 2021 Dropout Prevention Program in the amount of $5,136,092 for expenditures necessary to implement the 2021 At-Risk and Dropout Prevention Program plans.
Is there a second?
Second.
Director Gosa, thank you. Discussion. Director Beck?
I'm just gonna ask I'm gonna ask the team members to come up and walk the board through what is a complex request.
So what you have before you are a series of programs. There's descriptions written down on each side of them. Many of you are familiar with them. And so I will entertain any questions that you have about any of the programs that are there now. As you may remember, in the past, this was something we had to turn an application in for. But last year, they moved this to where all that we have to do is bring it to the local board and get approval, and that's what we're doing here today. In the past, it was similar to our Title I funds where it had to be approved by the state. Now it has to be approved by you. And so that's why we're bringing this forward to you, and then we will upload it.
And TJ, where does that number come from?
So this is a formula that's driven by our student population, with a weighting attached to it with a multiplier, and then that gives us our number.
So, 2 questions. Number one, we approve it that you say we need this much money, and the Board of Education or the State Department of Education automatically grants us that money?
This is the maximum amount we can ask for, so we're asking for it.
Okay.
And so then we upload it, and in the past, it's been approved. So Claudia, I can't think of a reason why they wouldn't approve the full amount that we're asking for, because it's what's been calculated for us.
And this is similar to sort of the special ed deficit, right? In which we,
In a way,
we have to
it's
apply for that.
formula driven. What they're really, and it changed last year, like TJ said, what really has changed is that your approval is for the plan and the program. The dollar amount is fairly much prescribed
They
by the
turned
state.
a lot of control back over to the school board, and they loosened up the regulations for these funds. Example, you could never use these funds to do security in the past, and now they allow you to do that. But you guys have to approve what's in there. It's kind of giving you the control of what's in there instead of the state.
Okay, so that leads me to my second question. Of these programs, I know they're all in place at the moment. Do we have data to show that they are working?
So each one of these programs has, for example, IJAG, they capture their data. So yes, each one of these programs requires them to capture data. Some are more effective than others, and some are new, and we're collecting data on those. Some we tweak the programs. An example is right now we're implementing Check and Connect in a lot of as a vehicle, kind of a mentoring program that we will utilize in a lot of these, so that will change. So the effectiveness of our programs typically boils down to implementation, follow through, anything that you know, Dr. Beck, in research shows. So.
I guess my question though is, we're implementing a different sort of, you said Check and Connect, a mode of taking advantage of some of these things. How long do we try something before we decide it's not working and we switch to something else? Because I know in the past, especially with teaching programs, we've not given it enough time, or we haven't implemented it faithfully enough to see consistent results in different places.
If I may, so this is in the realm of social emotional behavioral health of our students. And it's my understanding that from an institutional perspective over time, we've been eliminating a number of those programs for students. And unfortunately, we're starting to see the deleterious consequences of those program eliminations. This is the way to start rebuilding our program base and our continuum of services for our students. So the key for this is to evaluate the program from a continuous improvement perspective. And if it's working, obviously continue that. So the answer is how long? As long as it's working, it will continue. But it's imperative for the district that we start building a repertoire of services for our students from a social, emotional, behavioral health perspective that not only addresses crisis response and violence prevention, but everything from student behaviors and PBIS. So all of this plays together. We're just building our toolbox of how to work with our students in replacing programs that have fallen by the wayside over time. And clearly we're seeing a void.
Okay, so I guess I have a follow-up to that. So I always come back to this reading at the 3rd grade level, such a telling statistic. What of these types of things is aimed at improving reading?
So if you look on, that's a good question. If you look at there's a $5 million budget, and 1/5 of that budget is dedicated to reading interventionists, which specifically target exactly what you're talking about.
So we're talking about reading intervention at kindergarten, first grade, second grade?
Early reading, yep.
Okay.
Exactly what you're talking about. And if you look at this budget, one of the programs in here that's clearly defined roles. Those students are identified by using their FAST scores, and they're put on the roster of a reading interventionist, and there's a diagnostic assessment that's given that places the students in a specific intervention, and from there their progress monitored by that reading interventionist. And so that is one program that is in here that, and if you look at our scores, a lot of the interventions that they're targeting are around accuracy, which accuracy and fluency have a higher tendency to be a better reader if those two things are happening. And so that intervention is working in our school districts, in our school district.
Okay, so we've seen data to show that our students who we've worked with
Are accurate.
are getting more accurate.
So just like anything else, we notice that we might need a class-wide intervention in fluency, or fluency might be our next step, or both of those, or move a little bit quicker. Those are things that we're all learning and growing and progressing. And to answer your question, there are things that aren't on here as there were in previous years because we showed that they weren't working. You know, if we didn't see a bump in our attendance, we decreased our attendance and went more with the success coach model. So those are the kinds of things that we're starting to notice. What we're heading down the direction of is mentoring, and not mentoring in the way that we typically think, sit down and have lunch with somebody. You're on my roster. I'm case managing you. I know your mom, I know your teachers, and I know you, and I know your goals.
In a long-term relationship,
And it's
then?
2 years minimum. That's the vehicle of Check and Connect, and that's the direction we're heading with our dropout programs. I also want to tell you that, as Dr. Kobilski alluded to, that tomorrow is a big day, and it could turn us on a dime. And so these funds could be shifted or changed, and we could be standing in front of you again, making modifications. We don't know.
Okay.
But our ultimate goal with these funds, and I'll use Dr. Kobilski's words, are to provide on-ramps for students that are potential dropouts or at-risk students. That's the goal of these dollars. And where we are and where we're going, we need to have a full continuum of supports for our students that are at risk, and that's what these funds are for. And so that's the direction that we're heading with these dollars. But the next year will be all telling for these dollars.
Okay. I have a question, one more question, and it's a little bit specific and might be for Dr. Kobilski. I know the campus security people who were in elementary schools in particular, relationship building, right? It was more about building rapport with some of these students. And some of them ended up getting reassigned to middle and high schools. And so are we creating a problem there by trying to plug a hole? Are we creating another hole?
We're trying to solve two problems at the same time.
Yes.
One is to make sure that we have proper security at our secondary schools, and also to have the properly trained individuals in our elementary schools that are trained to handle the more multivariate behavioral issues that we're starting to see at the elementary level that goes beyond what a security guard would normally be trained in. So while the security guards are moving up to the secondary level, we're pushing in trained experts from a parapro perspective that has a better grasp and working knowledge as well as training in managing complex behaviors, which isn't necessarily the case with our security guards.
Okay. Have we increased the number of social workers or counselors through this at all?
So 2 years ago, there are, I believe, 6 social workers in our program, in our at-risk program, and we added 5 counselors. So yes, this definitely increases that, and the social workers are at our secondary schools. Okay. So all of our high schools and 2 of our middle schools. Is that right, Rob? And that's based on our Title I status, our free and reduced lunch, and our most at-risk middle schools. That's where the social workers are located.
Okay, I guess I just want to make sure that we're not, we're giving programs enough time that we're implementing them with fidelity to make sure that they're working or not working before we make a decision to cut them, but also that we're not just sticking with things that we've been doing that don't work. So that's really the root of my question here.
Good question.
So, thank you.
Director Klein Jerome.
Do all intermediate schools have school within a school?
Yes.
Just new in the last year or
So,
two, or?
Last year, they were housed at 2 intermediate schools, and when we went through our big budget shakeup, we put one at every one of our middle schools except for maybe Walcott, I think. Yeah. Thanks,
Okay.
Rob.
And then are we looking at data for reading other than that FAST test? I've been down that road. I don't care how fast you read, but if you can't comprehend, I think that's a bigger problem. And I think the FAST test just relies too much on how fast you're reading.
Yeah, that's why I said accuracy and fluency combined typically make somebody not, you can't say all the time, but when those two data points are higher, you have a better opportunity. You have a higher likelihood of comprehending. So you're absolutely right. And that's the direction that we're heading. You'll notice that while we're doing accuracy, we notice that fluency is a grade level wide issue. So we'll do class wide interventions that are brief, short burst interventions every day. And that seems to be helping us because the ultimate goal, like you just said, is to understand what you're reading. If you're not accurate, then the movie has holes in it. If you can't chunk the words together, then you're never going to get through what you're trying to read. So those two things combined. I'm talking to somebody that's a lifelong educator. So for everybody else, those two things, and sometimes parts of the FAST assessment will have you working on your fluency and have a tendency to over practice those things to where students aren't focusing on comprehending what they're reading, or your specific need might be accuracy, so you're trying to learn how to read, therefore all of your brain capacity is working on sounding words out and things like that. That causes you not to worry about comprehension as well. So what Director Klein-Jerome is saying, when do we get to comprehension? And there is a portion of that in the FAST assessment towards the later grade levels. So what we're really trying to do is that we know that if they're accurate and fluent, they're more likely to comprehend what they read. We know that from reading research. And so combining those two things is what we're really trying to focus on. And our reading interventionists do evolve. Bill, if you want to add anything to that.
But we are not testing comprehension anymore in those tests. We used to have a program where we'd sit down and, how fast did they read and then restate what you read. We are not doing that anymore. It's just how fast. Is that correct?
I don't think that's.
No, I believe there's comprehension at the upper grades. It's fast is a little misleading. It's not about how fast you read. It's just the name, because there's fast math and there's fast reading. So it's not all about fluency. It's accuracy, fluency, and there's comprehension.
So I think the assessment that you're referring to is the curriculum-based assessment, and that's more of when you think about like the MAP testing, what are some of the other ones that you would give for comprehension? So there are those, I think they're called curriculum-based assessments. If our curriculum director was here, we'd have a better answer for you. I apologize. But there are comprehension-based assessments in the FAST as well.
Thank you.
I was just going to ask for a follow-up. If you could, at some point when you get a chance, send us some information on how comprehension is being tested at all the grade levels, just so we know. Because I get the FAST results, but I don't know exactly what that is. So it'd be helpful.
Director Posture.
What criteria did you use when you broke down how much in each category, like under district-wide intervention between program services, credit recovery, and reading intervention? How do you arrive at those figures?
So these programs are things that we've evolved to over time, and so when we bring this forward to you, those board members that have been on for a while, there are just tweaks on here. So the programs that we've arrived at are research-based. They're there are things that we monitor and track over time, and there's some that come on and some that come off, like Dr. Beck says. So the things that are on here, those categories, we don't decide what goes in what category, but they just fit into that type of category, if that makes sense. So IJAG goes across our whole district, reading interventionist. So just over time, we say we want to look at a program, we want to adopt it. Something has to come off the plate, and then in order for that new program to come on. So that's how we determine. And it's through the associate superintendents and directors and involvement with the administrators and teachers that decision's made.
What is new on here and what was dropped off? And
Okay, so if you look at the bottom, one of the new programs that we are working to implement is the redirection program for dropout prevention and alternative to suspension. So in an attempt to create more on-ramps for students that are chronically disruptive, we are creating basically the concept as a school within a school, but it's going to have different tools and strategies inside of there. And that would be a shift from, if we had 40 security guards, we went to 35 security guards, so to speak. And so the amount and number of security guards we had was reduced to create that program. So it's not like we did away with a program. We reduced portions of one to create that program. And then that's the direct. So in our secondary schools, that's the direction we're looking to head. We're looking to add, to use Dr. Kobilski's words, on-ramps for students, because there is a gap in our intermediates and secondary schools where we have this kiddo that's starting to cause some issues or have issues or going through something that just needs a little bit more support. And that's exactly what these programs are dedicated to.
Yes.
Yeah. I had a couple questions as well. My first one would be, I don't know how long you guys are planning on implementing this for, but over that period of time, how many students, or I guess percentage-wise, do you plan on seeing drop from the at-risk and dropout rates at Davenport schools?
Yeah, can you rephrase that one time for me?
Yeah, so how many students do you expect to, how many students do you expect to drop out over the course of how long this plan is being implemented from?
Oh, how many are projected every year to drop out, or what's
Yeah.
our past practice? Geez, I don't have that number off the top of my head because it has fluctuated over the past years. I mean, I wouldn't want to even say that number because I could be wrong and then we could be quoted for that. So I know that it's been a significant, we've had increases where we've decreased our dropout rate, and then we've had a couple spikes in the last year or so too. So that's moved up and down, and I know it's rated on a different scale from graduation and dropout are rated two different ways. They actually both could be going in the right, like dropout could be increasing, but our graduation rate could be going up too. So they're evaluated on different spectrums.
Thank you. I had one more question as well. I know I'm a senior at Davenport West High School. I know a lot of my students and my friends that are on track to graduate don't necessarily have the motivation to. And my dad worked at Family Resources for 17 years. That worked with a lot of at-risk kids, and they didn't have the motivation as well to finish high school. So I guess what within your plan would help create some motivation within your students?
I think you can look at pieces of every single one of these programs that would hit that. For example, IJAG, almost every single piece of this is dedicated to just that. These are dollars that are dedicated to reach out smaller groups, class sizes, mentoring relationships to help bridge the gap. If you look at I think it's the graduation advocate one. That gentleman single-handedly ushers seniors through their graduation. I was in his classroom just the other day, and he had 10 kids sitting around in a room. It's like, no, you're not leaving until that's done. All right, Mr. Gluck, right? So we are trying to do everything we can to help our students navigate that gap. That's a really good question. And I think it would be beneficial to start attaching the number of students that are being affected, and that would be a good stat to capture. Actually, that was good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director
That was
Busa?
oh, sorry.
My first question is there a way that the board can get, say, the past 5 years, dropout numbers, what programs were in place at each year, and a brief description on that program, so we can see how
Need
the
a board
numbers are working?
request for that, Dan. You need
You want me
to
to
submit
do
a board request. Yep.
Never mind, I guess I'll do it that way. But you know what I want when I put it in here. And now I lost my train of thought on the other one, so I'll wait
Sorry.
Thank you.
Got your question answered, too.
Right?
Director Beck.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that was an excellent question, Adam. And I think, as Director Ghost is going to put in the board request, but it's helpful to know, you know, how many of our students this is helping. Not that even if it's just one student, it's important to help that student graduate, but just to know sort of what percentage of our population. And if that is increasing over time, then maybe we need to think about something else. Or if it's decreasing over time, that's a good thing.
TJ, one quick comment on that. I think in a lot of our goals for these activities are much more short-term goals than even the dropout rate or the graduation rate. So we're really looking at data that is centered around what's happened in the latest quarter, what's happened in the latest semester around credits, attendance, referrals, a lot of those things, because rather than a longer range goal of a 4-year goal. I still think we can collect exactly what Director Goes, I think you're getting at, but a lot of our goals, we don't want to wait 5 years to see if this program's worked. We're looking at a lot of short-term goals to see, is it being an impact right now? If that
Because I'm
answers some of your-
looking down through there exactly, Rob, that the credit recovery program we run, it essentially for us, it's a summer school program that allows students to catch up on a couple credits and allows them to graduate. And I think there's 150 kids that went through that last year, and we have four staff members dedicated to that, and that also pays for our online universe, so to speak, of Edgenuity, the licensing of that, and that runs from the middle of July to the middle of June, and we really do graduate a lot of students from that didn't finish this course, that just need that extra nudge and someone calling them to wake them up and get through it. So, I mean, that's good. Put that on there next year. Nice job.
Any other questions?
Philosophical discussion.
We'll move to the vote. Director Hayes,
Yes.
Director Gosa,
Yes.
Director Postian,
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome,
Yes.
Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Mayfield,
Yes.
and my vote is yes. The motion carries. We have a motion on 8.08, please.
Mr. President,
Director Hayes,
I move the board approve the lowest responsive bid from Tri-City Electric in the amount of $241,100 for the security camera installation upgrade phase 1.
is there a second?
Second.
Is that who? Is there any discussion?
I have a question.
Klein
and I-
Jerome?
And I think I read this a few days ago. There's a couple buildings that in the intermediate that aren't getting this, Central and Walcott, was that correct? And why is that?
They are getting the external cameras, but we just bought new servers for Central. The last one is about 2 years old, so we've got 3 years left on that one. And with Walcott, we're not purchasing a server because I had to stay within my budget. So that'll be the next time when we start working on the elementary external cameras.
Okay, thank you.
Director Beck?
I know this is replacement, and I'm sure we've asked this before, but what is the life on these?
These have been in at least 5 years.
Okay.
And because they're externals, there's water damage, sun damage, kids damage.
Yeah. So these aren't part of the security upgrades that we've just recently completed in the last couple years for the most part?
Correct.
Okay.
Any more questions? Move to the vote. Director Hayes,
Yes.
Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Gosa,
Yes.
Director Postian,
Yes.
Director Mayfield,
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome,
Yes.
and my vote is yes. Motion carries. May I have a motion for 8.10?
Mr. President,
Director Beck?
Aren't we at 8.09?
it's 8.09. Yeah.
What did I do? Skip a page?
Yeah, we're in the ELL cost.
Okay, let's do 8.9.
Mr. President,
Director Beck?
I move that the board approve the application to the School Budget Review Committee for $178,604 in modified supplemental amount for LEP instruction beyond 5 years. The district intends to levy cash reserve for this amount.
Is there a second?
Second. Second.
Director Hayes, thank you. Discussion? Director Beck?
Just for all of our benefits, this is for students who need English language instruction for more than 5 years, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
And can you explain how we levy the cash reserve, but we're asking for money from the SBRC? We're just asking for the spending authority?
We're asking for the spending authority. You approved this back in November.
Right.
And in the past, when the language has, given the dollar amount and then we say or maximum amount, that's always been sufficient in the past. This year, the Department of Education requested that districts who were eligible for more than had originally been approved take it back to their boards with that specific language. So it ends up being $1,513 more than you had originally approved in November. And that comes about because they had not finalized the student enrollment counts. So yes, we are requesting the spending authority. The actual cash comes from our cash reserve levy.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? We'll move to the vote. Director Beck?
Yes.
Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Mayfield?
Yes.
Director Gosa?
Yes.
Director Postian?
Yes.
And my vote is yes. The motion carries. We have a motion on 8.10.
Mr. President,
Director Hayes?
I move the board approve the contract with CE Consultant in the amount of $40,925 for community engagement consulting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Beck. Discussion?
Mr. President, may I introduce the topic for the board? This is coming down rather rapidly. So as I had mentioned in my superintendent report that we've been working with the Department of Education on our crisis response violence prevention plan. As part of that plan is to engage our community and through surveys, through focus groups, to build consensus as to what our plan needs to look like. This particular consulting contract, the CE consultant, it's their job and their responsibility to reach out to the community. The Department of Education actually conducted the bid process, and this was the organization that they have recommended for us. This will be a continuation of our Project Aware grant, and that's where the funding source will be from. Apologize for the last minute nature of this. However, that contract was just given to us on Friday afternoon, and that's why you have it in your packet today. This is a requirement from the Department of Education, and it's actually stipulated in one of our citations. We just need your approval given the fact of the contract size, but we're taking the lead from the Department of Education with regard to the work that needs to be done and how that work is going to be done.
Director Klein Jerome?
I have two questions. How is this funded? Does this come out of general fund to pay for this?
So we have an ongoing grant that we've been utilizing. TJ, I believe it's called Project Aware is the actual grant, and that grant money will actually be funding this particular program.
Okay, and then it also talks about teachers being a part of these focus groups. How will these teachers be selected?
That will be determined by CE Consulting. We've been told as a district that we should allow them to do their job. This is what they do for a living, but certainly we'll take a look and see how they're going. Their goal is to be as inclusive as possible, but this is what they do for a living, and we're going to rely on their expertise on how to make this as inclusive as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Questions? Yes, Director Gosa.
So you said the State board is one who selected this group. They put the because I'm just curious. I googled them and they're like way up by Chicago, and I just surprised we wouldn't use someone like locally that kind of knows the area and the people. But if that's what the state,
Let me just politely say this wasn't a request.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? We move to the vote. Director Hayes,
Yes.
Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Postian,
Yes.
Director Mayfield,
Yes.
Director Kleingerl,
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
And my vote is yes, the motion carries. We have a motion for 811, approval of policies.
Mr. President,
Director Beck,
the policy committee recommends the following policies be approved by the board. 502.01 physical examination, 502.02 vision screening, 502.03 annual physical examination for athletes, 502.04 communicable diseases students, 502.05 injury at school. It's supposed to say injury, not injury. 502.11 student special health services, 502.05, I don't think that number's right. Use of motor vehicles, 502.07 work permits, 502.08 use of bicycles, 501.07 placement, 501.13 attendance records, 501.12 boundary lines, 501.11 attendance centers, 305.25 school bus safety instruction, 305.26 school bus passenger restraints, 903.15 public input at board meetings, 903.19 complaint procedure, 306.01 care, maintenance, and disposal of school district records.
is there a second?
Second.
I'd ask Director Beck as chair of the policy committee to lead the discussion.
Okay. Okay. A lot of these are changes that just bring us up to code. I'm going to start with the ones that have to do with physical examinations and student health. These were reviewed by our head nurse, Gina Ekstrom, and basically language was changed to fit with what is current. For example, instead of personal doctor, primary care, or personal physician, primary care provider, because a lot of people see a nurse practitioner as their primary care provider. So that would be physical examination, vision screening, annual physical examination for athletes, communicable diseases for students, and let's see, the injury at school. Again, we now do online registration, and so by deleting the word form, we've included the more current forms of getting authorization to treat students if they are injured. And student special health services, that is just sort of standard language. So those first few policies, 502.01 down to 502.11, all have to do with student health, and it was just a language tweak for each of those. So we decided to bring them up for a vote. They meet Iowa code and are the recommended language. Questions on those while we have them up? And I believe we have our nurse here if anybody has a question of her.
Questions? Comments?
Okay. Well, we will move on. The use of motor vehicles is 502.06, and there are no changes recommended by that. It was up for its regular review. And also the work permits, 502.07, no changes recommended. Use of bicycles, no changes recommended. 502.08 is the bicycles. So those are sort of three student services policies that came up under normal review and didn't need any language to be made current, or any language changes to be made current. Are there questions on those? Basically, students can work, students can drive to school, and students can ride bikes to school. Okay, the next one is on placement. This is a policy stating that students entering the district, either for the first time or after a lapse of 2 or more years, will be put in a grade level placement after consultation with the principal and the parents or guardians, and this has to happen within 2 weeks, but a temporary placement can be made. This came up for regular review. No changes recommended by Mr. Schnaden. Same with attendance records. This is just a policy that's required, stating that building principals will assure that adequate attendance records are kept and reported. And then boundary lines, 501.12. This states that the board has the discretion to determine the boundaries for each attendance center and to assign students to the attendance centers. We're not making any changes to this at the time, but I should note public input should be incorporated in a plan as part of the decision-making process, is part of the policy. Okay, so that is sort of the next 3 that have to do with attendance, and there are no recommended changes. Are there any questions on those? Okay, the next one is 501.11 on attendance centers, and we have changed the language of this one to reflect what we're doing in, to emphasize what our policy already was. And I will ask Mr. Scott to please explain the basic changes that are happening here.
So again, I think we reviewed this 2 months ago or a month ago, but we're just coming back to it. We've always had the rule about May 1st, and I just felt like the form and the policy on the transfers was not evident that it applied to the entire document. So we've revisited putting May 1st throughout the document so that families would know that they have to have that turned in. No different if you were open enrolling out of a district in our state, it's March 1st is our deadline. To transfer option where it's acceptable in our district, it's May 1st is the deadline. So families would know, and in our time for staffing that we have such tight classrooms, we have to be more prepared, and we can't make changes as we've been able to in the summer for enrollment, moving back and forth 20, 30, 40 students at school. So knowing by May 1st would really allow us to still make some changes before teachers go home in June if we have to make any adjustments to the staff.
So basically, this is for transfers within the district. It doesn't have anything
Within
to
the
do with
district,
out of
absolutely. Within the district, we've got a couple different ways. We at the high schools, we have where they can transfer to any of the high schools. We've got through diversity plan that they can do to our elementaries, whether you're is it A or B school or what? Yeah, A or B school. And so you have that ability too. But again, those have to be turned in but prior to May 1st so we can plan on the class sizes for the next coming year.
What if a student moved to our district in the summer and say high school level, supposed to go to Central, wanted to go to West, would we not because they didn't make the May 1st?
Yeah, new students to the district, we would, I should say, we would adhere if there was space available. Because the same reason, we could have 5 kids move out of the district from May 1st to August 1st. So if we had to move out, as long as it would stay in, no different if we had 26 kids in a 4th grade classroom at an elementary. If we had 3 kids move out and somebody moved in, we'd have a spot for them at that point.
Director Klein, that could be a bigger issue with the diversity plan. A student moving here in June or July. So we probably should look at, we should say that on the A there under the diversity plan, that maybe that can't be so locked down by May 1st. If you're new to the district, one time you can apply for diversity or something. That probably needs some language.
Should we bring it back to the policy committee
Don't
then?
you think? That's a good point.
If this is overly restrictive, then certainly we should.
How would a student ask for a diversity transfer if they didn't move to our district till June? They'd have to wait till the whole next year.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Just a thought.
we'll pull this one out for tonight and take it back to our next policy committee meeting?
And we're still close.
Do I need to make a motion to do that?
Yep.
To pull out the attendance centers, 501.11.
We probably need a motion to table.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion to pull out 501.11 to revisit it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? We'll move to the vote. Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Gosa?
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
Director Mayfield?
Yes.
Director Paustian?
Yes.
And my vote is yes. 501.11 is tabled.
Okay. Let's see. The next couple are required. A new policy, 305.25, school bus safety instruction. If I remember correctly, this was a couple months ago, but Mr. Maloney explained that this is now new Iowa code. Is that correct? So we're required to have a policy on how safe riding practices and safe riding practices and emergency drills will be given at least twice during the school year. A second new policy, 305.26, is also in place, required by the school, or excuse me, by the state, that the district shall utilize 3-point lap shoulder belts on district school buses purchased after October 2nd, 2019, as required by state law. And then they will be used on district buses when used by passengers when the vehicle is in any non-stationary gear, which is a fancy way of saying not stopped. So that's a policy required by law. And as we replace school buses, we will have to include those new harnesses in those, seat belts in those. Are there questions on those two policies? Adam?
When do we plan to implement that, the seatbelt rule?
That is a really good question. And, pardon?
I don't think until they get the new buses with them on there.
We don't have them on there right now.
Huh.
None of our buses have them right now.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It won't be implemented until we purchase.
Yeah, it won't be implemented till we actually purchase new buses, and that isn't happening right now. But the enforceability of this state-required policy has some issues to smooth out in the meantime. So, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
No one's going to be thrown off a moving bus for not wearing a seatbelt, at least not by a person. So it's required that we have that policy. But that is an excellent question, and the same one that policy committee came up with. Other questions? Okay. The next one, 903.15, is policy on public input at board meetings. And if I remember correctly, again, this is one from a couple months ago, we changed the language to reflect more what we do in practice. There was some archaic language in what people can't say that we didn't adhere to anyway, but we want to encourage public comment whenever it's appropriate, and that is basically what the language is here. And I believe this is our second reading of this policy, but if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. Okay. The new policy 903.19 is on the complaint procedure, and this basically codifies the order in which things should be addressed. So if a person has an issue, they should address it to the most immediate supervisor of that issue, a teacher or employee, and then if it's not settled, work their way up. And again, this is the second reading of that procedure. Questions? Or policy, excuse me. All right, and then the last one, 306.01, we had an archaic list of documents and how long we were supposed to keep them. These were paper records, and they actually don't fall under the discretion of the board of directors for the most part anyway. So we have replaced it with a policy that says we will keep the appropriate records that we're required to keep, and we've gotten rid of anything that wasn't actually under the purview of the board in the board policy. So with that, I would ask for Director Potts to conduct a vote.
I'm just gonna copy it. Any questions about that? We'll go right to a vote. Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Gosa,
Yes.
Director Postian,
Yes.
Director Mayfield,
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome,
Yes.
Director Hayes,
Yes.
and my vote is yes. The motion carries. We'll now move to discussion items. TAG is going to make a presentation on our new branding and elements for the school district. I think they're requesting that the board take the seats out here so that we may view the screen.
Okay.
I will introduce Mike Vondran, president of TAG, and Michael, introduce your teammate, and welcome. Glad to have you here tonight.
Well, thank you.
Please take care of
There, can we be heard now? All right, very good. Everybody get seated?
No, you got it right there.
Yeah, that would probably work out better. Actually, really. Yeah, we're good. I think we can talk loud. We don't necessarily need that mic. How's that? Can everybody hear me? Great. All righty. Good evening. We're excited to share a brand vision.
We need for you
look-
to, sorry, Mike,
I'm
but
sorry?
we won't be able to, we won't be able to hear you on the video.
Oh.
So let me go get a handheld for you.
I never was good on camera. I could get a stand. I got a face for radio.
Just stand at the podium.
You have the voice of radio too, sir.
Mary? I can probably hold this.
Yes.
Will this work?
Yep. Oh, that's good.
This will work. Ooh, yeah, yeah, we're good. We're not too complicated, I don't think. In any event, thank you this evening. We're excited about what we're going to share with you. This has been a good bit of work. On behalf of the other 24 members of your Davenport District team at TAG that aren't here this evening, we'd like to say thank you for the opportunity to serve. This has been a great challenge. It's been a great opportunity. And quite honestly, it's been a lot of fun. Through the process, we've had an opportunity to meet with and make a lot of new friends, both within the district as well as outside, as we've done our research and done our own discovery with regard to what we believe is going to be a solid foothold on a new and evolving brand, something that you can grow with, something that we can grow with, something that our 15,000 students can grow with. Okay? So with that, I'd like to introduce Brian Buckles, our Vice President of Design and Creative, and Brian's going to walk through the vision. Now, I'm going to throw a little kudos Brian's way. A lot of what you're seeing tonight has been driven by Brian and his talent. So this is something that I'm excited to watch him share as well. So Brian?
Thank you, Mike. You all hear me all right? All right. Good evening. What I want to do is walk us through this vision that Mike was talking about. I want to start by just encouraging you to sit back. I am going to read this paragraph to us because I think it's important that we all start from the same spot, so to speak. I want to lay a firm foundation for us as we move forward through the presentation and just make sure that we're all calibrated. So, as the largest school district in the region, the Davenport Community School District has an inherent responsibility to lead. A large part of that leadership is reflected in how the district presents itself to the general public, parents and students, and internal staff. Providing clarity of thought and vision, developing internal alignment among staff and leadership, and creating a tangible identity from the intangible attributes of the school district are how a successful brand is built. Uh-oh. This looks dangerous. This starts from the inside out. The Davenport Community School District is well positioned to write the next chapter in its rich history with a new vision, one that more accurately reflects the core values, mission, and makeup of its diverse student population. Creativity and innovation abound within the district, requiring a new identity that better communicates these attributes. With an intense focus on the future, a new brand and narrative is necessary to reestablish the Davenport Community School District as the leader in providing educational excellence for our future, our children. Whoa. There we go. Branding is all about building a foundation and building a unified vision and then executing consistently. And part of that is establishing core values, things that we hold dear, that we hold true to. And this, getting back to talking about branding being built from the inside out, this is where core values come into play. Everything that's executed in a brand vision is run through these core values. They really serve as a litmus test. And so for every decision that's made by the school district, those decisions should be vetted against these core values. So dedicated to educational excellence through professional development and accountability of educators. We all know why we're here, and that's to educate our future, our children. And so staying committed to that level of excellence is priority one. Ensure the safety and security of all students. I think it goes without being said that safety is paramount nowadays, and so we're gonna solidify that in these core values. Commit to future-focused vision and action. Everything's about moving forward momentum, forward vision, and staying committed to that. Foster a diverse culture through education, programs, students, and staff. Taking pride in our diversity within our community, embracing that, and then running with that into the future. Provide a holistic education that emphasizes the social and emotional wellness of every child and the foundational pillars of academics, the arts, and athletics. We understand that education is not a one-dimensional thing, right? We all learn differently. And so placing emphasis on that through these foundational pillars of academics, the arts, and athletics allows us to build that firm foundation for the brand to grow. Cultivate a caring and inclusive learning environment. We know that children, we're not just here to learn. We know that teachers are so much more to students than just educators. And so understanding and growing that sentiment is critical. And then commit to our community through listening and learning, transparent communication, and providing an excellent education for every child. Again, the school district is a reflection of the community, and we want to make sure that they're viewed as one and the same in some respect. All right, so how do we build a brand? Well, this is one of the fundamental challenges. How do we build a brand that is reflective of all that the school district is, which is comprised of many schools, each with their own unique personality, their own unique identity, but also build a brand that is cohesive, right? The district needs to present itself as one. And so what we did was we took a look at all the school colors, and there's a lot. But that's cool. We actually enjoyed that, and we think that that's a strength. But what we wanted to do was we looked at these school colors and we thought, is there a way that we can consolidate and align colors under primary categories so that we can establish a clear corporate color palette of the district, one that's reflective of each individual school and yet also solidifies the district as one. So, I guess without further ado, here's where we are today, and here's where we're going. Davenport Community Schools, growing excellence. There's a number of things that we're going to talk through here, but first and foremost, I'm sure the new icon is something that we really wanted to focus on forward momentum, and so the arrow is is about as symbolic as you can get in regards to that. But then also consolidating those colors that we just showed into one unique and unified identity is something that we think we can build on and move forward with. And then growing excellence, a new positioning statement. What we like about this is that it can be interpreted in many different ways, and we think that's its strength. The district itself is growing excellence, right? That is what we're doing. We're here every day. We're always evolving. We're always moving forward, and we're always striving for excellence. But that's also what we're doing in the classroom too. We're fostering excellence in our students each and every day. And so no matter how you interpret that positioning statement, we think it carries positive momentum and a solid foundation for the brand moving forward. apologize for the glare, but this is meant to show the identity on a dark background to show flexibility. It's important in branding today to have an identity that can be replicated in numerous different formats and platforms, whether it's digital or in print. And so we've taken all those things into consideration to design an identity that really is simplified when you think about some of the most successful marks out there, Nike, FedEx, Starbucks, whatever it is. All those marks have simplicity in common. And so that's really what we're striving to do here, is to create something that is simple and iconic. Here you'll see a breakdown of how every school is represented in this identity, which we think is really, really cool. It's something that, we are all one, and we want to position it that way to the community at large. We think that's really important. The other thing is the variety of color not only represents these schools, but also represents the diversity that's found within our student body. Everybody comes from different neighborhoods, different backgrounds, and color is a powerful tool in being able to represent that. But that's not all. The variety of shapes that you see here, they're not just arbitrary shapes. They do carry more meaning than that. What we've done is taken abstract letter forms to actually spell Davenport within the identity itself. Which, if anybody likes the FedEx arrow, I don't know if everybody's aware of that, but the arrow in the FedEx logo, it's just kind of a fun thing that's hidden inside there. And I think it gives it some personalization, some deeper meaning, and it's a mark that Davenport can own. That's cool. So again, moving forward together, this mark is so much more symbolic than just the school district. It's representative of a community, right? And so that's our goal here, is to unify the district, unify the schools, and unify our community into something that really we can all embrace and own moving forward. Again, flexibility is big in branding. We have to understand that this mark can be replicated on something that's faxed, even though that's not done as much anymore. Digitally, reversing it out, black and white, these are all important considerations that we take when designing. All right, so now we get into image style. How does this brand, how does this icon come to life? And what we really want to do is to make sure that this icon is not static. We want to actually incorporate the icon into our messaging. And so pairing the icon with dramatic imagery focused on our students is how we want to move forward. That allows this icon to live and breathe and change and grow. And you'll see applications of this right here. So practice makes greatness, growing talent and creativity. Great readers aren't born, they're made. And everything is moving forward, right? Everything is pointing to Davenport Community Schools. Word mark on the right there. Again, emphasizing students, emphasizing teacher-student interaction, athletics, academics, and the arts. Another way that we can creatively integrate this this icon is we can crop imagery inside the icon itself to show the diversity, to show the activity that happens across the district. There are so many things, so many innovations that happen every single day across the district. We can actually work those things into the mark to really demonstrate this, the idea that this is truly the best place to educate your child. And then custom patterns. They're a little hard to see here, but what we're trying to do here is build a visual language so that when someone sees any brand communication from the school district, they instantly know that this is from the Davenport Community School District. So we have a mock-up here of Dr. Kabilski in front of a new Step and Repeat, integrating that brand identity and logo in the background. The new custom patterns can be integrated digitally on the website, in social media graphics, and in print collateral as well. The other thing with this icon is that we design it with simplicity in mind and versatility. So we can create an icon that's easily adapted into a lapel pin, and I'm going to walk us through a couple of different applications here. All new business collateral. This is really important. Every interaction with a potential customer, in this case parents, or any interaction that anyone has with this brand, it's important to have consistent. Did I get some water, actually?
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's important to have consistent communications. So business cards, ID badges, letterheads, envelopes, they're all touch points that reinforce the brand and allow oh, there we go.
Thank you.
Yeah, very nice. And allow us to really solidify the brand and maintain consistency. Again, moving through some applications here. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Moving through some applications here. Tote bags, different things that allow, these could be for staff, these could be for parents, but this allows us to, again, you can see how the brand can be adapted to various platforms, brings color, energy, and it's a constant reminder of the Davenport Community School District. And then we move into the digital space. This is a mock-up of the new website that's underway. We are building something that's mobile responsive, building something for the future. So no matter what device someone is looking at this website on, it looks modern, it looks energetic, and captures it captures the essence and the innovation and all the things that continue to build to make the school district what it is. It comes through here in the digital space. This is also an ADA compliant website, so things like color contrast, and we take all those things into consideration. And then moving into social media, how does the school district play in regards to each individual school? So as an example, I kind of view this much the same way that a car manufacturer might have multiple brands that reside underneath it. Whenever there's a school that is using its primary messaging platform, like in this instance Facebook, the district can actually be part of that messaging, again, to sort of solidify the unification of the district, but it plays secondarily to the school that it's appearing on. So in this case, Sudlow, we just use a small logo bug, Davenport Community Schools, in the cover photo there, and that allows us to again build that alignment amongst the different schools. And then into the physical space, wall graphics can play a huge part in communicating this message. Bigger can be better in many instances, and so taking this brand messaging and moving it to the walls in large format really makes an impact and tells that brand story. We're all in here right now, and we could be looking at that. But again, constant reminder of why we're all here: academics, the arts, athletics for every child, and being able to see this as a backdrop really serves as an important reminder for us to stay committed to our students. And then I'm going to close with this is called a brand board, and basically it's a 30,000-foot view of this brand. It's a collection of all the things that make this brand what it is and make the school district what it is, all the way down to important considerations like consistent use of the same typography. Again, the corporate color palette, unification of the color palette, growing excellence, re-emphasizing the applications, and as you take this all in, you can start to see a cohesive look that we think is going to position the district in the best way possible. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike, and he's going to walk us through the strategy.
All right, thank you. As you can see, this new brand has a good bit of life, a good bit of energy. A brand is a living, breathing enterprise. It is ever evolving. It cannot rest and be termed a set it and forget it product and or personality. It will continually evolve and be a reflection of the body of the district. The district will continue to change. We believe we put forth here a very good foundation for that change. Quite honestly, we believe we've taken a giant leap, one that is going to help not only present the district in the light that it is worthy of, but also allow the district to present itself with a uniformed and a united front with all the multiplicity of campuses that are a part of it. That's one of the things that we found in our research. While all these schools in the neighborhoods that we live in were a part of this enterprise, there was a great disconnect in the brand. There was a sense even within those buildings that they weren't necessarily a part of the district, that they were to some degree from time to time. I think one expression I heard was an island. A brand can be a unifier. It can be a way to bring everybody together. And we believe what we presented tonight. And Brian, if you could go back to that last page, please, because that's where I want to finish tonight. You'll see that we have that there. And it's great energy, it's great vibrancy, and it is, again, reflective of not only the independence of every school that we have in the district, but it's also that great unifier. And that was our goal. Within the packet, you'll find a number of other, for the next 3 or 4 pages, and I'm not going to go into great detail on this, but you'll just see a continuum of an outline of the tactical measures that we're putting in play. You've seen a lot of them already. I think you'll agree that you've seen an increased effort with regard to social media. The district now has an Instagram presence and has for the last 3 weeks. You're going to see that continue to grow. And one of the real positives from that is that the Good News Network, or the sharing of information, or the want to share good news, my desk lights up every day. And that's coming from our teachers, from our schools, from our counselors, from our coaches, and now from the greater community. We now have media in the marketplace calling, saying, can we cover this good news story? You might have seen one last night or even today on the young men that went to Kenya. The media is now dialed in on all the good work that's being done with these 15,000 young souls. And we want to build on that, and we can with your help. So I believe we're going the right direction. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. K.
Thank you, Michael. And thank you to the team for putting in all this work. I think this is absolutely awesome. I just wanted to offer 2 quick comments. Earlier in our conversation today, I had mentioned that the district has been experiencing some headwinds. This is really our opportunity. This is our time. We have a newly constituted Board of Education. You have a brand new superintendent on board. This is really an opportunity for us as a school district to start moving forward. You're hearing a whole host of activities that are taking place within the district from a student and staff perspective that are wonderful things that, for reasons that we don't know, just never really were communicated all that well to the community. And here we have an opportunity, and I'm going to use the term renaissance, which is rebirth of a school district. And this is our opportunity to do that with form as well as function. When I say function, we have a whole host of educators and parents and students that are working very hard to look forward as we're trying to fix some of the pieces that we've been dealing with over the course of the last couple of years. And this is really our opportunity to say to the world, we are now looking forward. We hope to continue that conversation after our meeting tomorrow. But again, this is a form and function piece on that. And the other piece that I think is very important is I'm hearing from all of the board members, and I hear from the community that there's so many good things about Davenport, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, but it's just not out there. We need to recreate our narrative of positivity in this district. We're doing that in social media very well now. We're going to be doing that with our website. I think this branding initiative is something that's going to move us in that direction also. So this is really an exciting opportunity for the district to look forward and to start creating its own narrative in a positive way. One of the things I always tell my administrative team is, yes, we have to know what we're doing and we have to do it well, but we also have to look like we know what we're doing. This is a very polished approach that I think represents the district very well. And again, one of our goals is we know the community is very prideful in the school system. Let's give them more reasons and more access, and let's keep feeding that pride with the narrative of positivity that we've been pushing out, and let's continue that front. So again, my congratulations to the team for pulling this together. I do think one of the best decisions the board made early on was engaging TAG and bringing them on board. Everything that you see here on this board, to include even the website design, is part of the services that are provided. This is not an extra cost piece for us. This is what that dollar amount is providing for us. So it's not just the wonderful looking piece, but it's all the social media posts, it's the changing positive narrative in the community, and we're very grateful for your efforts on that, but also grateful to our community for starting to see all the good things and starting to share that with us and starting to share that with each other. So I'm sure Mike and we'd be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Okay, they'll need to come back up here.
Everybody back up. That would be my answer. You might not.
Director Hayes.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I love it. I absolutely love it. With all the troubles that we've gone through, I have been kind of against District of Distinction for quite some time, and I do like this new, basically, rebirth. And the colors are very catchy, so it, really just attracts your eyes. I like the creativity with the Davenport in the arrow. I just love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Adam.
I also have a comment, not a question. I have to agree with Director Hayes. It's amazing, and I apologize to the person who designed the original logo was in the room, but I think it is a lot better than what we had before. And I kind of like that comment, what you said before, that some people think that the Davenport Community Schools are kind of like islands. I kind of compare it to the early history of the United States at the Revolution. The states thought of themselves as their own government, and then the Constitution came in and it made it a central government and it made it a strong country. I think that could be what this logo does for the Davenport Community Schools. Centralizes us and makes us whole, and it pushes us in the right direction. Thank you guys for your hard work on it.
I think it's out. It pops. It jumps right out at you. It's bright. It's colorful. It says motion and movement. It's exciting. It's just exciting. I want to get a lapel pin. Maybe one for each lapel.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. I like how you can modify it with the football player or the kid playing a violin or whatever. Schools can. It's adaptable. It's professional. We didn't do a contest in the third grade to decide what our logo was. Not that that's wrong, but this is really good stuff.
Well, it's a new day in Davenport, and we're moving forward, and thank you for helping us along the way. Thank you.
Again, thank you all for having faith in TAG and our team. It's been a pleasure.
Director Hayes?
One additional thing I'm wondering if we can add, it is very much all-inclusive, but is there somewhere on there that we can put like one of the special needs children on there? Because we do have some. And that would be all-inclusive, I guess.
Absolutely. This is not the brand in its entirety. This is a bit of a draft synopsis, as you will. Absolutely. The brand will be representative of each and every child. You have my word on that.
Oh, it's a great representation. I love it. But just thinking about it, you couldn't visibly see any special needs children, and that would cover everyone.
If I could just answer that in one other way, there may be special needs students in these photos and you just don't know it. You know what I mean by that? It's not always that obvious. Okay. But I understand your point, and we'll certainly take that to heart.
Director Gosa.
I'll agree with everyone else. I think it's a great concept. I like that you incorporated all the colors. I really love that it says for every child, and what Director Hayes had said, I echo that, and Dr. Kabilski had kind of answered that as well. But I definitely like that a lot better than the District of Distinction because I just don't think that was the right thing. And I like how you incorporated all the letters and everything in there. I just hope that every time we get a new superintendent, we don't change logos and stuff. So I'd be good with this one for the long haul.
All the more reason to keep me around a while, right?
You're gonna be here for about 10 years, so.
Anything else? Thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have our Phase 2 update.
Two quick items. We had a meeting with the Department of Education last week, Thursday, which is our monthly sojourn to Des Moines, and pleased to report to the Board of Education that the report that was given by the administrative team at the Department of Education to the Iowa State Board of Education was all positive. We've been meeting all of our benchmarks along the way. We continue to do so. And pleased to hear the narrative from the Department of Education administrators to say how pleased they were with our level of collaboration and cooperation with each other. I still feel and have felt from day one that their goal is our success, and they're committed to us moving forward. So it was a positive meeting, and again, we're hitting all the marks that we need to. Second piece I would like to mention for the board is the Department of Ed is coming back for a revisit to Davenport, which will be the last week of February. Their goal is to revisit, if you remember that spreadsheet and that sort of quasi Gantt chart that had, all the green boxes, the yellow boxes, the red boxes. There were a lot of green boxes that we checked off very early on in the process. Their job is to come back again in February just to make sure that all those boxes are green. And what I said to the Board of Education at the time is we're entering a very critical phase of our work with the Department of Education. We identified issues that needed to be mitigated and resolved. We came up with a plan to resolve those issues. Now we're moving into the next phase, which is to systematize all of the work and all of the operations within the district so that it becomes part of our culture and climate that doesn't allow us to revert back into some of the mistakes that we've been making into the past. And that's an important piece, and that February visit will be our opportunity to show the state folks that we didn't just check boxes, that we truly changed not only our mindset, but we truly changed how we're operating as a school district to be an effective district from a continuous improvement standpoint, moving on, moving forward. And I think they appreciated that narrative, and we're looking forward to the site team coming out late in February where we can prove ourselves to them. I'd be happy to take any questions. Okay, thank you.
Okay, board reports, board requests. This is from Director Gosa. Data over the last 5 years, including dropout numbers and programs that were going at the time with a brief summary of each program. If you have a SWOT chart on this, that would be great to see as well. Oh, yeah. Why are you requesting this agenda information? I feel it's important information for the board to have so we can see the data. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. When would you like it? ASAP, and this is a form of an information request. We have any administrative reports?
None this evening.
Well, I hate to disappoint everybody, but this meeting is adjourned.